Let's see. Yep, I can zoom in on it too. Look at.
Oh, some blue. Oh!
Hey, don't bump me.
That is super good. Look, babe. Bye-bye, Moon.
First brightest moon for 133, huh?
Yep.
I should have played fox and geese.
No tape.
Why not?
Here I have documents that shows you did something. We'll put them back in there. You wiped them out, didn't you?
Yeah.
Where you gonna put them?
Just put them on the counter.
Over the counter.
But there's a lot more to say about Omaha's most preferred photo finisher. For one-stop shopping from the #1 supermarket and supermarket photo finisher.
Say, Baker.
You said a mouthful.
I got the call.
Magic cards. All magic?
And it's moved dozens and hundreds and thousands of people in this campaign. Bill Bradley has an interest.
They're all in something.
That could have been interesting. I think
They're the ones you wanted?
Yeah. Who got this for me, Dad?
I did. We did.
You did?
We did. Jerry and I.
Thank you, Dad.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dad and Jared.
Now, a group of friends respond to the dilemma many families...
There too. Give one to Grandpa.
Carol Warner's 84-year-old
You better not be recording. There's a hill there. And it ain't fun.
Our pictures before we start. Never.
The Herdmans were absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world. They lied and stole and smoked cigars, even the girls. They talked dirty and hit little kids and cussed their teachers and took the name of the Lord in vain and set fire to Fred Shoemaker's old broken-down tool house. That tool house burned right down to the ground, and I think that surprised even the Herdmans. They set fire to things all the time, but that was the first time they managed to burn down a whole building. I guess it was an accident. I don't suppose they woke up that morning and said to one another,
Let's go burn down Fred Shoemaker's tool house!
But maybe they did. After all, it was a Saturday, and not much going on. It was a terrific fire. 2 engines and 2 police cars and all the volunteer firemen and 5 dozen donuts sent up from the tasty lunch diner. The donuts were supposed to be for the firemen, but by the time the firemen got the fire put out, the donuts were all gone. The Herdmans got them, and what they couldn't eat, they stuffed in their pockets and down around Ollie Herdman's middle. I don't know why the Herdmans are hanging around the scene of the crime. After all, everybody knew the whole thing was their fault, and you'd think they'd have enough brains to get out of sight. One fireman even collared Claude Herdman.
You can't start that fire smoking that tool house.
We weren't smoking cigars.
And they weren't. They were playing with Leroy's Young Einstein chemistry set, which he stole from the hardware store. And that was how they started the fire. They were just so all-around awful, it was hard to believe they were real. Ralph, Imogene, Leroy, Claude, Ollie, and Isaac. 6 stringy-haired kids, all alike, except for being different sizes and having different black and blue places where they had clonked each other. They lived on the bottom. They lived over God's at the bottom of Sproul Hill. Nobody used the garage anymore, but the Herdmans used to bang that door up and down just as fast as they could and try to squash one another. That was their idea of a game. And where most people had grass in their front yards, the Herdmans had poison ivy. They also had a sign that said, "Beware of the cat."
New kids always laughed about that until they got a look at the cat. It was the meanest looking animal I ever saw. It had one short leg, a broken tail, and missing one eye, and the mailmen wouldn't deliver anything to the Herdmans because of it. The cat would attack anything could see through its eye. Once, Claude Herman emptied the whole first grade in 3 minutes flat when he brought the cat for show and tell. He had it fed it for 2 days, so it was already mad. And then he put it in a box and carried it to school. And when he got there, he opened the box, and the cat shot straight up, right into the air, people say, and landed on top of the chalkboard ledge, and clawed 4 long scratches down the chalkboard. Then it tore all around the room, scratching little kids, shredding fur, scattering books and papers. The teacher, Miss Brandel, yelled for everyone to go out in the hall. Then she put a shawl over her head, grabbed a broom, and tried to corner the cat. But of course, with the shawl over her head, she couldn't see, so she just ran up and down the aisles, hollering, "Here, kitty," and smacking down the broom whenever the cat hissed back. She knocked over the Happy Family Dallas and Globe of the World and broke an aquarium full of about 20 gallons of water and about 65 goldfish.
As far as anyone could tell, Imogen was just like the rest of the Herdmans. She didn't learn anything either, except for more dirty words and secrets about everybody. Twice a year we had to go to the health room to get weighed and measured, and Imogen somehow always managed to figure out what everybody weighed.
I know how much you weigh, William. I wrote it down on this piece of paper. See?
It must have been an awful amount, because even William looked horrified. So Imogen got his pocket knife. She also got Lucille Golden's imitation alligator billfold. For a while, she was getting 10 cents a week from Floyd Brush, till Floyd lost 15 pounds and didn't care anymore. My friend Alice Swindlekin was so nasty clean that by the time she was 4 years old, she had detergent hands. Just the same, she caught a case of head lice at summer camp, and Imogen found out about that. She'd sneak up behind Alice and holler, "Cooties!" and smack Alice's head. She nearly knocked her cross-eyed. It was no use trying to get secrets on the Herdmans. And you couldn't tease them about their parents. They didn't know who their father was, or where he was, or anything about him. Now and then you'd see Mrs. Herdman, but she worked double shift at the shoe factory and wasn't home much. So the Herdmans pretty much looked after themselves. Ralph looked after Imogen, Imogen looked after Leroy, Leroy looked after Claude, and so on down the line. The Herdmans were like most big families. The big ones taught the little ones everything they knew. And the proof of that was that the meanest Herdman of all was Isaac, the youngest. We all figured they were headed straight to you-know-where by way of the state penitentiary.
Until they got themselves mixed up with the church and mother and our Christmas pageant. Our Christmas pageant isn't what you call 4-star entertainment. The script is standard, the inn, the stable, the shepherds, and the star. And so are the costumes, and so is the casting. Primary kids are angels, intermediate kids are shepherds, big boys are wise men. Elmer Hopkins, the minister's son, has been Joseph for as long as I can remember, and me, Alice Wendelkin, is Mary, because I'm so smart and so neat and clean, and most of all, so holy looking. All the rest of the kids are angel choir lined up according to height because nobody can sing parts. As a matter of fact, nobody can sing, and nobody thought of the Herdmans in connection with our Christmas pageant. All week, most of us got pushed and poked by the Herdmans. We looked forward to Sunday being a real day of rest. In the end, it was my sister Charlene's fault that the Herdmans showed up at church. For 3 days in a row, Leroy Herdman stole the dessert from Charlene's lunchbox. And finally, Charlene gave up trying to do anything about it. Go ahead, take it. I don't care. I get all the dessert I want in Sunday school.
What kind of dessert?
chocolate cake and candy bars and cookies and Kool-Aid. We get refreshments all the time, all we want.
You're a liar. Leroy was right. We got jelly beans at Easter and punch and cookies on Children's Day, and that was it.
We get ice cream too, and donuts and popcorn balls.
Who gets it to you?
The minister.
Of course, that was the wrong thing to tell the Herdmans if you wanted them to stay away. And sure enough, next Sunday, there they were, slouching into Sunday school, eyes peeled for refreshments. They didn't sing any hymns, and they didn't say any prayers, but they did make a little money, because I saw Imogene Herdman sneak a handful of coins out of the collection basket as they went past her. At the end of the morning, Mother came to every class and made an announcement.
We will be starting rehearsal soon for our Christmas pageant, and next week after the service we will gather in the back of the church and decide who will play the main roles. But of course, we want every boy and girl in our Sunday school to take part in the pageant, so be sure your parents know you'll be staying a little late next Sunday.
What if we get sick?
All of a sudden, Imogene dug Alice in the ribs with her elbows. She has the sharpest elbows of anybody I know.
What's the pageant?
It's a play.
What's it about?
It's about Jesus.
Everything here is.
I figured Imogene wasn't too interested in the Christmas pageant, but I was wrong. Next Sunday, we lined up along some teachers who were supposed to try to keep us quiet. It was a terrible time to try to keep everybody quiet. All the little kids were tired, and all the big kids were hungry, and all the mothers wanted to go home and cook dinner, and all the fathers wanted to go home and watch football on TV.
Now, this isn't going to take very long. First, I'm going to tell you about rehearsal. We will rehearse on Wednesdays at 6:30, and we'll only have 5 rehearsals, so you must try to be present at every one.
What if we get sick?
You won't get sick. Now, you children in the cradle and primary classes will be our angels. You'll like that, won't you?
Yes.
And you older boys and girls will be shepherds, guests at the inn, and members of our choir. We also need a Mary and Joseph, 3 wise men, and the angel of the Lord. They aren't very hard parts, but they're very important parts. So those will be absolutely sure to come to every rehearsal.
What if they get sick?
They won't get sick either. Now, we all know what kind of person Mary was. She was quiet and gentle and kind, and the little girl who plays Mary, she'll be a lot like that person. I know many of you would like to be Mary, but of course we can only have one Mary. So we'll ask for volunteers, and we'll decide together who should get the part.
That was pretty safe to say, since the only person who ever volunteered was Alice. But Alice just stood there, chewing on her finger, looking down at the floor. And the only person who did raise her hand was Imogene Herdman.
Do you have a question, Imogene?
No, I want to be Mary, and Ralph wants to be Joseph.
Yeah! Well, we have to give everyone a chance. Does anybody else want to be Joseph?
No one did. No one ever did, especially not Elmer Hopkins. But he didn't have a choice, because he's the minister's son.
All right, Ralph will be our Joseph. Now, does anybody else want to be Mary? Janet? Roberta? Alice? Don't you want to volunteer this year?
No, I don't want to.
Nobody volunteered to be Wiseman either, except Leroy, Claude, and Ollie Herdman. So there was Mother, stuck with the Christmas pageant, full of Herdmans in the main roles. And there was only one main role left and one Herdman left, and you didn't have to be very smart to figure out that Isaac was going to be the angel of the Lord.
What do I have to do?
The angel of the Lord is the one that comes to the shepherds in the fields and tells them the good news.
And right away, all the shepherds began to wiggle around in their seats, figuring that any good news Isaac came with a smack in the teeth.
I can't be a shepherd. We're going to Omaha.
Why didn't you say that before?
I forgot. My mother said I could be a shepherd.
Why not?
I don't know. She says don't be a shepherd. Isaac Herdman hits too hard.
Why, Isaac isn't going to hit anybody. What an idea. The angel of the Lord is the one that comes to the shepherds in the fields and tells them that Jesus is born.
And hits him.
Of course, he was right. You could just picture Isaac whipping shepherds left and right. But Mother said that was perfectly ridiculous.
I don't want to hear another word about it. No shepherds may quit or get sick.
While everybody was leaving, Mother grabbed Alice by the arm.
Alice, why in the world didn't you raise your hand to be married?
I don't know.
But I knew. I'd heard what Imogen Herdman said she'd do to anybody who dared to volunteer. Like clonking them on the head and drawing pictures all over their homework paper and putting worms in their coat pocket.
And next spring, when the pussy willows come out, I'll get one. And I'll stick it so far down your ear that no one can reach it. And it'll sprout there, and it'll grow and grow. And you'll spend the rest of your life with a pussy willow bush growing out of your ear.
And that was why Alice didn't volunteer to be married. And after numerous phone calls and complaints about the Herdmans, Mother blew her cork. That night, Mother dreamed of putting on a plain old Christmas program with no problems.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Merry Christmas to all of you. We're jolly and fat and round, and ho, 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 ho's all around the town. Whiskers white, rosy cheeks, button nose, all in fur from his head to his toes. Dear Santa, jolly old Santa Claus, ho, 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 ho. Who is jolly and fat and round, and ho, 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 ho's all around the town. Whiskers white, rosy cheeks, button nose, all in fur from his head to his toes. Dear old Santa, old Santa Claus, ho, 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 ho. Scratch, scratch, itch, itch, golly, gee, I'm as sad as I can be.
Jimmy got an electric train, Johnny got an airplane. It's only natural I complain. I got the chicken pox for Christmas.
I was happy and full of glee. It's an awful tragedy. Everything seems to happen to me. I got the chicken pot for Christmas. No fun, no games, no friends, no joy. I can't even play with my Christmas toys. Christmas Day is not so hot when you're covered all over in a big red spot. Santa tried the best he could to give me gifts he thought he should. But when I tried to be so good, I got the chicken pox for Christmas. Now I'm going to play a little town of Bethlehem.
Christmas thought. Sing a song of Christmas.
Presents by the score.
Lots of jolly secrets told behind the door.
Mistletoe and holly.
Gifts and wrappings gay.
Oh, there's not another time.
As nice as Christmas Day.
Still, we must remember.
'Twas the Christ child's birth.
Brought a wealth of blessings
Over all the earth.
Let it be the giving
That makes this day so dear.
Let us keep this Christmas thought
In our hearts all year.
I'm going to play Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree on the piano.
Too fat for the chimney, too fat for the chimney. So open the door and let poor Santa Claus in. There's no room for his tummy. Please do something, Mommy. Without Santa Claus, oh how can Christmas begin? I don't know how I'll get the presents I've been looking for. I knew while sitting on his lap in that department store, he'd have troubles by chimney. He's too fat for the chimney. So open the door and let poor Santa Claus in. He's too fat for the chimney. Too fat for the chimney. So open the door and let poor Santa Claus in. There's no room for his tummy. Please do something, Mommy. Without Santa Claus, oh how can Christmas begin? One day I saw him on the street and I could quickly tell that with his roly-poly tom-tom shaking just like jelly, he just wouldn't make it by chimney. He's too fat for the chimney. So open the door and let poor Santa Claus in. Yeah! My mother says this year I ought to ask for practical things. So I'm following her suggestion and asking Santa to bring me a nice new pair of boots and a blanket for my bed. And please, Santa, if you could spare it, will you bring my mother a sled? My mother says if I am good, Santa will bring me some toys. For goodness sake, doesn't she know it's too hard to be good for all of us boys? Goodbye, friends. So long to Happy New Year's to all of you.
What a dream. I am going to make this the best Christmas pageant anyone ever saw. And I'm going to do it with the Herdmans, too. After all, they're the only ones that raise their hand, and that's that.
were the shepherds and where did they go?
On Wednesday, we had our first Christmas pageant rehearsal. The first Christmas pageant rehearsal is usually just as much fun as a 3-hour ride on the school bus and just as noisy and crowded. But this time it was different. Everybody shut up and settled down for fear of missing something awful that the Herdmans might do. So Mother started separating everyone into shepherds, angels, and guests at the end. But right away, she ran into trouble.
Who were the shepherds and where did they come from? What's a shepherd?
Well, what's an inn? What's an inn?
It's like a motel where people go to spend a night.
What people? Jesus?
Oh, honestly, Jesus wasn't even born yet. Mary and Joseph went there.
Why? What happened first? Start at the beginning.
You see, the Herdmans had never heard the Christmas story. They knew that Christmas was Jesus' birthday, but everything else was news to them. The shepherds, the wise men, the star, the stable, and the crowded inn. They never went to church in their whole life till Charlene told them we got refreshments. And all you hear about Christmas in school is how to make ornaments out of aluminum foil. So how would they know the Christmas story?
Of course, they could have read about it, but the only thing the Herdmans ever read is amazing comics. And they could have watched it on TV, except that Ralph paid 65 cents for a TV at a garage sale, and you couldn't see anything on it unless someone held onto the antenna. Even then you couldn't see much. So the only other way for the Herdmans to hear the Christmas story is from their parents. And I guess Mr. Herdman never got around to telling them before he jumped on the railroad train. And it was pretty clear that Mrs. Herdman had given up ever trying to tell them anything. So they just didn't know.
And Mother said she'd better begin reading the Christmas story from the Bible, which was a pain in the neck to most of us, because we knew the story backward and forward, and never had to be told anything except who we were supposed to be and where we were supposed to stand.
Now just sit down and listen to the story. Joseph and Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child.
That's pregnant!
Well, that stirred things up. All the big kids began to giggle, and all the little kids kept asking what was so funny. Mother had to stomp her foot to get everyone's attention.
That's enough, Ralph.
When Mother read about there being no room at the inn, Imogene's jaw dropped open and she sat up in her seat.
My gosh, not even for Jesus?
Well, now, after all, no one knew the baby was going to turn out to be Jesus.
You said Mary knew. Why didn't she tell him? I would have told him. Boy, would I have told him. What was wrong with Joseph that he didn't tell him? Her pregnant and everything.
What was that they laid the baby in? That manger, is that like a bed? Why would they have a bed in the barn?
That's just the point. There wasn't a bed in the barn, so Mary and Joseph used whatever there was. What would you do if you had a baby? No bed to put the baby in.
We put Isaac in a dresser drawer.
There you are. You didn't have a bed for Isaac, so you used something else.
Oh, we had a bed and Angel in it. She wouldn't get out. She don't like Isaac.
Anyway, Mary and Joseph used a manger. A manger is a large wooden feeding trough for animals.
What were the wadded up clothes?
The what?
You read about it. She wrapped him up in wadded up clothes.
Swaddling clothes. Long ago, people used to wrap their babies very tightly in large pieces of material so they couldn't move around a lot. It made the babies feel cozy and comfortable.
I thought it just made the babies mad. Till then, I didn't know what swaddling clothes were either. And they sounded terrible. So I wasn't too surprised when Imogen got all excited about that.
You mean they tied him up and put him in a feed box? Where was the child welfare?
The child welfare was always checking up on the Herdmans, and I'll bet if that child welfare had ever found Isaac tied up in a dresser drawer, they would have done something about it.
And lo, the angel of the Lord came before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and...
Shazam!
What?
Out of the black night, the total vengeance, the mighty marshal.
Isaac, what in the world are you talking about? This is the angel of the Lord that comes to visit the shepherds in the fields, and...
Out of nowhere, light in the black night. Light?
Well, in a way.
So Isaac sat back down, looking very satisfied with himself, as if this was one part of the Christmas story that actually made sense to him, at least according to Amazing Comics.
And Jesus was born of Bethlehem of Judea. And behold, wise men from the east of Jerusalem came, saying,
That's you, Leroy, Claude, and Ollie, so pay attention. What does it mean, wise men? Were they like school teachers?
No, W, it means like the President of the United States.
Very close, Claude. Actually, they were kings.
Well, it's about time. Maybe they'll tell the innkeeper where to get off and get the baby out of the barn.
They saw the child with Mary, his mother, and fell to worship him, and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh,
What's that stuff?
precious oils, and fragrant resins.
Oil? What kind of a sheep he hands out of oil for a present? Get better gifts from the Lions Club.
When Mother read about King Herod, the Herdmans had never heard of him either. So Mother had to explain that it was Herod who sent the wise men to find the baby Jesus.
Was it him that sent the crummy presents?
No, worse than that. He planned to have baby Jesus put to death.